And from that moment on, her life became a living hell. Okay. Hello and welcome to Tracy Momey Reads. I am back again with another book review. Today I'm going to be reviewing a book that was on my TBR list, right? And I did a video like a few weeks back where I talked about the books that were on my list that I have actually purchased, because see, there's a difference in having a TBR of books that you're just kind of like, writing down or screenshotting because you want to read them someday, and then actual books that you've purchased off that list. So I was talking about books that I've actually purchased and how I was going to start incorporating them into, my reading schedule. So today I did finish this particular book, Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. So we're going to be talking about this one. And as you can probably guess, because I think a lot of these titles give away, the genre of the book, it is in the domestic suspense genre. And it follows the story of a husband and wife and their community. And, we learn that things aren't always as idyllic and perfect as they seem, especially when you get to go behind closed doors. Reference to the title. But anyway, when I first started reading this book, I was getting very much Stepford Wives vibes. And
in the town of Stepford, the men are getting exactly what they always dreamed of: perfect wives.
This community, suburban community where all of these women were just so perfect. They were just so docile and just so domesticated, and they kept perfect homes, took care of the children. They were always well coiffed, and turns out that they had been hypnotized or poisoned or were taking some pills or something to keep them subdued. The men were doing that to them. So when I was reading this book, and the way the character Grace, it was Jack and Grace were the main two characters, husband and wife. Grace was she was doing too much, like, timing when she should go and, put the foam on the stuff and stir the things, and coming out with platters and, serving people. And it was just all too much. And even they were having a dinner party, like when the book opens. And even like, one of the guests, she was kind of new to the friend group, her and her husband. She was even like, oh, this is too much. Like, how are you able to do all of this and this and that? And she was kind of questioning what was going on, as was I. But it doesn't take long to kind of get into the crust of what is actually happening with Jack and Grace, because the story is told in like present day. And I want to see what the author actually, what she says. It's present and past. Like, she just calls the chapters present and past. So, like I said, the first chapter is that chapter where they're having the dinner party and everything's perfect. You're like, what the hell is going on? And then the next chapter is like past, and we learn kind of how Jack and Grace met. And you can just tell, and I know that this happens in real life as well. There are men, primarily, I mean, I'm not saying that women probably have, there probably have been women that have done this or women that do this, but people that can see an insecurity or something in another person, and they play on that to, make this person think that they understand them, or they, you know what I mean? Like, when they really are, okay, because the deal was Grace had a sister that had Down syndrome, and her name was Millie. And Millie was basically her life, because Grace was in her, I think, mid-30s almost, and she had never gotten married because she was like Millie's caretaker, and it was, the deal was like, we're 2 for 1, whoever gets involved with me would have to, know that ultimately, because Millie's in a school for kids with special needs, but when she turns like 18, she's going to come live with Grace, and that has always been the plan. And they have parents, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, throughout her dating and getting in relationships, Grace, like nobody ever really 100% accepted Millie and didn't understand why that had to be her job. And so she had just kind of resolved and resigned herself to the fact that it was just going to be her and Millie. Well, Jack comes along and he can kind of see, oh, there's a bond here. So instead of like initially like just going after Grace and like, hey, how you doing, what's your phone number, he like warms up to Millie, you know, because they were at a park dancing, and you know, people were kind of looking like, you know, get this kid, why is she dancing, and you know, nobody else is dancing, what's happening? And he goes and he starts dancing with her. So of course that warms Grace's heart, and you know, he does all this stuff. But it was really, as the book goes on, you learn that he's a master manipulator, and he did that to kind of get Grace to lower her guard. And then that's when he kind of swoops in and acts like he's the answer to all her problems, and that he would love her unconditionally, and that he understands that she and Millie are a package, and you know, I want this with you, let's get married, I want to be with you forever. Yeah, after 3 months, you know, he proposes to her, and I think because she hadn't had anyone, like as far as a man or someone that she was attracted to or that she thought she could be in a relationship with, no one had ever come at the situation where they were giving Millie this attention and, you know, like accepting her, because the guys in the past kind of like act like she didn't exist. So that just really, I think, made it really clouded her judgment. So anyway, tons of red flags started popping up even before the wedding. It's just different things that he would say and do, but you know, she's thinking, I want to be married, you know, I want to have a family, and you know, he's a lawyer, so he has money, and he's single, he's attractive, so she's thinking, I'm not gonna find anybody better than this, somebody that 100%, you know, loves my sister and accepts her, somebody that's handsome, that wants me, somebody that is, you know, well off, that can help take care of us. So she accepts his proposal and goes through with the wedding. And from that moment on, her life became a living hell, okay? And the whole facade with the perfection wasn't so much Grace's doing, it was Jack's insistence. And when things weren't perfect, there were consequences and repercussions. That's all I'll say about that. So she had to, you know, do what she needed to do in front of people. And like, he wouldn't let her go anywhere by herself. Like their honeymoon, my God, that when I read that scene, first of all, I don't know. I just like, if I'm a grown up, if I'm a whole ass adult, you are not about to confiscate, hold on to for safekeeping, or any of the above, my personal property, like my identification, my passport, my phone. I don't care who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, because especially you going somewhere, if you're going out of the country, and if you get separated from that person, or if they misplace, if I misplace my own stuff, shame on me. I'm gonna have to figure it out. But I feel like as a grown, responsible adult, husband or not, I don't need you holding on to my passport. Why you need my passport? And that should have been a red flag for her. Anyway, the honeymoon was awful. If y'all read this book and y'all get to that part, y'all gonna be like, what the hell? So anyway, she pretty much had gotten herself in this situation where she was trapped with this guy, right? And then it just goes on, and she finds out that Jack is basically a sociopath because of something that happened to him in his childhood. You know, and I guess that's how sociopaths are bred and born and bred rather. But he had some nefarious plans for her sister. And so once that became obvious, and it was getting closer to her 18th birthday where she was going to be coming to live with them, that's when it started, you know, clicking and kicking in for Grace that I've got to get out of this situation. You know, I've got to get out of this situation and figure out what I'm going to do, because I can't let my sister come here and, you know, essentially be tortured by this man. And, you know, he had the rooms with locks on them in the basement. Like he was doing all kinds of things, you know, to just keep Grace under his thumb and make her like 1000% dependent upon him. But you know, he I think got a little too cocky in the end. And this is where I think was the biggest like the most ironic thing, that irony came into play here. Because in the beginning, you know, he did all this stuff like focusing on Millie because he realized that's what Grace's purpose in life was. Like she was to take care of her sister, right? Well, in the end, that same love and that same devotion and that same responsibility that Grace felt for Millie, that's ultimately what saved her from Jack. You know, she found the strength that she didn't even know she still had. And actually it's funny because it was a little something that Millie said, you know, but of course people brushed it off because she has Down syndrome, she has special needs, she's just talking or whatever. But something that she told her sister, you know, like that she needed to do, that's what Grace ended up doing to ultimately get away from Jack. And it was very much as the scene played out at the end of what happened, which I'm not going to spoil, but it was giving me Gone Girl vibes by Gillian. I was going to say Gillian Anderson, and I know that's not correct. Gillian Flynn, I think. Yeah. Because you know, when she went missing in Gone Girl, like how she put all this stuff in place to make it look like her husband had done it. So it was a similar thing there, that she had kind of premeditated and put things in place to you know, pretty much secure her own innocence if people were to question anything. And I think that was my favorite part of the book. I feel like it drug in some parts, and I get it. I really, really do. I get that in these types of books, there have to be a lot of improbable things because, you know, you have to, the author has to write these characters where they're not that strong, and maybe over the course of time they become strong because of what they've endured. But it annoys me to no end when I read books where people are so damn gullible. And it's like, how did you survive taking care of a whole nother person into your mid-30s? You know, you had to at some point have been in situations that would have sharpened your social skills, your survival skills, and things like that. But I guess a lot of times too, and this is when art mirrors real life, you have some people who are so desperate for love and for attention that they totally ignore red flags. They totally ignore when they have gut feelings, you know, because they want to hold on to this thing and they want it to be real. So that was the only thing that was annoying me. I'm like, Grace, if you don't get your head out your ass, and I mean, she should have struck way before the time that she did. But, you know, it all worked out in the end. So there's that. And she ended up having an ally that I knew was gonna, you know, probably come help her, because she was just too, like, she was not a big fan of Jack. So I knew something was gonna happen with that. So yeah, in the end, it's like karma came to pay a visit. And you know, the only thing I wish, because there's something wrong with me apparently, but the other thing in a lot of these books, when people get their comeuppance, I just would like, you know, to see more suffering for all the shit they have caused. But I guess because throughout the book is mostly talking about what they inflicted, and then you kind of, you know, you only have so much left where you can actually have the other character or characters get revenge and kind of close things out. But I would like for maybe to read a book, and if you know a book like this, let me know. Well, maybe the first part is somebody did all this diabolical shit, and then the second part is them getting all the stuff they deserve, so that we have some balance, you know? So if you like books in the domestic suspense genre, if you like books with that go from past to present as they, you know, come to the climax of a story, books that give you like a little, you know, like you can pick up on red flags that the characters aren't picking up on, books where nothing is really as it seems, and then also books where the perpetrators of certain actions get what's coming to them, then you will really enjoy Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. As for me, I give it a 3.75 because, like I said, I mean, some of it I know it happens in these type of books with the behavior of some of these characters, you know, that maybe those aren't things that happen in real life. But I mean, I'm just waiting for the characters that got themselves in a sticky situation, realize that this is not the right thing for them, but they do it anyway. Like, they take ownership. They weren't just like, oh, I didn't see that coming. So yeah. Anyway, if you have read Behind Closed Doors, I would love to know what you thought about it. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video and go ahead and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel and hit that post notification bell. You guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.